have the baby B cup.
Of course.
And here I have. Mama needs some coffee.
Yeah, she does. We know how tired Mama is. Hey, everyone. Figured we got a pretty packed show tonight, so we wanted to start a little early. And
He's been over here like 10 minutes. Can I start now? Can I start now?
We're getting better at this. We're getting better at this. Most of the time we were like 3 minutes left, hair on fire. Now we were here 10 minutes early, ready to go.
Where can we start?
Yeah.
We're
So
here.
let us know how the sound is. If you're here and you can hear the sound, give us a thumbs up. Let us know we are good to go. And then we can get started. So just as soon as we get it good to go on the sound, we are ready to roll. So,
Happy Sunday.
oh man, it is Sunday.
Yeah, doesn't it not feel like it?
No, like everyone else is talking about, they're just laying around, not doing anything. We have gotten busier.
Every day's a work day.
Yeah,
When we schedule a daily show like this.
Yeah, exactly. So, so can you guys hear us? I mean, I see people on there. I see likes coming, which is good. Thank you for the likes. People are learning, getting learned. So, all right, Jason said good. All right, cool. Jay, good. Thank you, brother. So, yeah, I'm like, we've done nothing but get busier and more tired.
More tired.
Yeah, well, you've been taking one for the team. Baby B is teething, and
she's getting her top 2 rabbit teeth.
So she's gonna. What's bad is when she's like gnawing on my head now or my finger. It's gonna hurt.
Her favorite game. Well, she has a few new favorite games, and it's adorable. But one of her favorite things to do is to lie over Jason's head, and he goes like this, and she like loves his hair like all up in her face, and then she bites his head. She thinks it's hilarious.
I don't know why that's a good forget time for her, but it is. So that is gonna have to stop once she has 4 opposing teeth.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that the teething process has greatly impacted good sleep.
Yeah,
in the Perry household. And,
yeah.
Mama's hurting. It was a long weekend, guys.
Hey, Brandy, good to see you. So we're going to break down. I want to show you guys some numbers that are pretty interesting.
Are you going to put them on the screen tonight?
I'm going to put them on the screen tonight. So
bear with us.
So I'm going to lose.
Screen share doesn't happen.
Yeah, hold on. I got to split this off so we can do this. So I'm going to put that over here. And then do this, and then, hold on.
The technology process.
Yeah, needing multiple monitors right now.
So let's start off on a positive note. Has anyone seen any news stories out there today of good things, kind things that people are doing for each other during this little national shutdown that we have going on? Any kind gestures? We talked about the ways that people are trying to get their kids' birthdays and the little birthday parades going on, certainly kind of offering to grocery shop for people. So type into chat if you've heard any great stories that would be heartwarming for us to hear, because that's always the pick-me-up that we're looking to share right now, all the feel-good stuff. So hopefully there was some new news stories, because there's certainly still a lot of not so good going on.
A lot of the worst of humanity.
Not so good. And so if we can find the good, let's share it.
All right. So I wanted to dive into this. So this is Worldometer. This is the one that I go into. Oh. Hey, T.A., good to see you. And, this is the one that is ahead of all the other ones, meaning it's about 12 hours ahead of all the other calculators I'm seeing out there. And it's never been wrong. They always catch up to it. So there's a trend I want you guys to see. And one of them I'm sure of and one of them I'm not sure of. So right now we have 336,000, total coronavirus cases that we've known
globally
about, right? We have 14,613 deaths, and we've had almost 100,000 people recover, all right? Active cases, we have 213,186, which is 95% in mild condition. And then here, and I thought this was 4% yesterday, which is
Yeah, I think it
you
might
know,
have been.
which I think this ticked up, and we have 10,640 in serious or critical conditions. So I believe that trended up. But this is definitely trending up. So closed cases, these are coronavirus cases that are no more, right? Meaning they either cured themselves or the person died. So this is climbing, right? So we've got 97,636 recovered and discharged, and then 14,613, which is 13%. And this percentage point has been climbing every day.
Well, so it started high when it was just China, right? And then it dipped. Didn't
Yeah,
it dip? And now it's coming back
It
up?
dipped way down because at first we only knew about the worst cases.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's coming back up. And I think that's as we scroll down here to the data, you're going to see first, I want to show you, Italy is just getting totally crushed. So if we look at new deaths, you can see that Italy's leading the world now at 651 a day.
Down, actually, though, from the day before.
Yeah, it was almost
close to
800.
800.
Yeah.
So.
They've got another 5,560 cases. Spain has had 375 people die. Iran, 124. And USA is coming in at 114 now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're no longer single digits.
Yeah.
We're now the fourth country with the fourth most deaths out there. So if you look at new cases, we lead the world in new cases. We have 8,576.
Which is like because we're testing more.
Yeah, we're
and
finally
we have
testing.
A large population,
Yes.
so obviously our numbers will inevitably be bigger.
So, basically, we're finally catching up on the tests going on out there. So you can just see that these things it's multiplying exponentially every day. I want to get down here to the news articles and show you because I'm noticing some things here, particularly in the U.S. So in the U.S., we have 4 new deaths in New Jersey, 6 deaths in Georgia. Nothing there that they're saying, right? As far as data, pre-existing conditions, not much information. 4 deaths in Louisiana, all right? And one of them is, you have an 83-year-old, but then a 50-year-old, and they didn't mention any pre-existing conditions. If you notice, and throughout these things, they can't get pre-existing conditions out there fast enough, right? And then you come down here to Michigan, and you get a 52-year-old man with underlying health conditions.
Can I just to go and look at the Louisiana one that said all aside from the 83-year-old individual had underlying medical conditions.
Okay, and that one there. So, and then we go down here to Virginia. The first in Fairfax County, a man in his 60s who acquired COVID-19 through contact with previously reported case. No mention of underlying conditions. New death in Indiana. 67-year-old man in Kentucky, and on and on and on. And it just keeps going. So,
and there was also, I saw an article. Are you done with the?
Yeah, I'm going to get rid of it now.
Can my face come back?
Yeah. Your face can come back.
So I saw an article just before we came on about a 14-year-old girl in Atlanta who is on a ventilator in the hospital in serious but stable conditions. So hopefully that means that she will recover. But that is, obviously one of the younger age groups, and for her to be that serious to be on a ventilator.
12 years old.
And 14.
Sorry,
and
14.
they listed that she had no underlying health conditions.
Right. So today was, I talked to you guys, for those of you who watch the program, about a case where I found a doctor, widely regarded doctor who is a former SEAL who from like the 70s, who went on to become, I guess, an Army doctor because he's a colonel now, and a retired colonel, and was like a surgeon at, the most special, one of the Army's, Delta Force, whatever. And as of 4 days ago, he was on TV telling people that kids are immune to this, right? Which, of course, made me fly off high into the right. And I started, I politely told him like, hey, you're sowing confusion by doing this. And what I think is happening is I finally figured out what it is. I feel like because the news media has berated, the leadership so much, and everyone thinks that all of our leaders are just dumb, and everyone else has an inflated opinion of their ego, right? So what happens is everyone thinks they're smarter than everyone else in the world right now. I mean, how many people have we come across who think that they know better than all these people with the top secret security clearances and everything else out there that's going on? And unfortunately what happens is I think people leave Team USA and they go to Team Ego instead, where they're just serving their ego instead of saying, hey, I may think this, and because I'm important and because I did all this cool stuff, maybe I should try to impact
I think it's one
through
thing,
back channels. But when you undermine U.S. policy.
Yeah. I mean, clearly you're entitled to have an opinion and possibly, you can have a different point of view on something. But when you're going to make a claim like that, especially in a public forum, when you have a resume that sounds like you're going to be an expert on the matter, you need to be able to back that up with sound data and statistics. And I think that's where this guy fell short. He was falling back a lot on that he, as a doctor, has seen a lot of other of the strains of coronaviruses out there. And that they were, nothing impressive. And so he was just lumping this one into that category. And just because of that experience was saying, this is really not a big deal. So chill out. And maybe he thought he was doing a public service and telling people, don't worry about it. But again, that counters everything else that we're hearing. And so, that confusion there.
So it just comes down to this. And this really bothers me, particularly for military guys, right? Particularly officers who have been, telling people to follow their orders their entire life, right? And then now they don't want to follow orders, right? It's like right now we need everyone in this country on the same page. The decision was made. This is how we're going to handle it. We need to all get on the same page and do this, or else it's all for nothing. We had a choice. We had a choice. You think
it's necessary. You still need to do it.
We had a choice. And our choice was either let it kill as many people as possible and don't touch the economy, or try to fight for every life possible, which is what we chose to do as a nation. So once that decision's made, it's done.
All in on that effort.
It's all in on that, or else we're going to kill too many people, and the economy's going to suck if people are still going to spring break and movies and everything else. So anyways.
Surprise of the day. Wait for it.
Wait for it. Go ahead.
There was at least 4, which I'm sure there's more. Spring breakers who just tested positive for coronavirus.
Imagine that.
And now they're back home self-quarantining.
Hey, gotcha, unicorn. I don't recognize that name, but welcome, my friend. So here we go. So I'm going to call in Victor. Victor, are you here? And maybe he's gotcha, unicorn. I don't know. But I'm going to call Victor in Minnesota here, and we're going to bring him on and hear what's up with Victor. Victor's got, I think he told us the other day, 1,200 acres somewhere in Minnesota.
Oh, right. That was Victor.
So I got to get him all connected.
He was your dream come true.
Yeah, he's
you were
doing
drooling when he was talking about the acreage and all the things he could do there.
I am, gotcha.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me? All right, I'm going to unmute you. You're on the air, Victor. How you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm in here eating pizza. My pizza delivery guy suggested to take the mushrooms out the pizza because he gave the wrong one. And I said, I'll just call down there and pick it up. It still ended up costing me $25.
Hey.
I gave the guy a $5 tip.
All right, well,
so
awesome.
The moral of the story is we have to look at this like it's a serious situation like diabetes, cancer. This is a new normal. And if you don't get it, then you are pretty much, I hate to say it, really ignorant or stupid or a little bit of both.
Yeah, exactly. So Victor, why don't you tell everyone who doesn't know you where you're from and what you do?
Okay. I am a retired federal law enforcement officer, U.S. Forest Research Service, medically retired, got hit by a drunk driver 18 years ago.
Oh, man. Sorry to hear that, brother.
To date, I've had 111 surgeries, I still maintain my security clearance, and I found out what I will be doing.
Wow.
I'm going to be hunting the pedophiles and sex crimes and keep the cyber war against that kind of crap to a minimum.
Awesome.
If possible, in the tri-state area.
What a great calling, man. What a great calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the mental fortitude to do that. And,
yeah, that's a tough job.
You know, if you can go through 38 surgeries in 4.5 months, you got something up there.
Well, I'll tell you, a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, my old partner, I won't say his name, has been working sex crime cases for Boston Police Department for a while. And he says, you know, it scars you down to your soul, but every day you know you're taking bad people off the street, so you are serving a noble cause. It's not like you're out there and doing some, you know, crime that everyone, you know, speeding or whatever.
You can feel really good about what you're doing at the end
He
of the
goes
day.
to bed at night knowing he took evil off the streets. Yeah. So, you know, again, I salute everyone who does that. And, you know, and I want to thank you for your service, Victor. So, Victor, what are you doing right now? Obviously, you've had all these surgeries. You're an increased risk for this. What in particular are you doing to get through?
Well, I'm actually wearing a bandana over my mask. So I look like kind of a hillbilly. Crazy hockey hair kind of Minnesota guy.
Yeah.
So it's actually working pretty good. And I've been just wearing my tactical gloves everywhere.
Right. Do you have any masks? Did you happen to get any masks, or did you not? Were you unable?
I went to Home Depot and I got a few for the family.
Okay.
I knew about this in January.
Right.
From a number of sources. And I'm not saying I'm in the know, but I'm still have a security clearance, so therefore I know a few things about a few things, but not many. Trust me. It changes every day.
So, Victor, what does your day-to-day look like right now? Are you going out for work, or are you at home with family?
Pretty much 50-50.
Okay.
I work from home quite a bit, obviously on the computers, but because we don't know what, you know, our tier 1 teams of law enforcement to kick down doors are going to be doing. So we have a shift in energy, I guess, center of gravity. So, you know, we're still hitting places that we know where targets can be either rescued or arrested. My feeling is what's going to happen to the everyday law enforcement calls, the domestic violence,
we're already seeing reports at a lot of places that they are minimizing those responses.
Yeah, they're really shutting down, and they're really kind of gone to skeleton crews or preparing to go to skeleton crews, where they're just kind of spreading out or sitting in the parking lots and responding to hot 911 calls that will be answered.
That's what my team is probably going to be doing, more mobile stuff now, but still doing our crimes, you know, our computer aspect of everything.
Okay. And what do you have for family at home?
Well, I'm taking care of my mother, my sister, my other sister, and then my sister is deployed in Afghanistan, and my three nieces. Now my brother, he's all good to go, but I have a sister out in Oakland.
Okay.
Which she says, she basically is telling me, prepare.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to tell me that, but you know. She's on her own little tune, but she has a good friend in Oakland PD who said, "You know how to fight our gun, I might need you." So I'm like, wow, to my sister. So that kind of tells you what's going on.
Yeah. Well, brother, if there's one thing out there that, you know, anything uplifting you can offer to people out there, to someone who might be in a dark place right now or being scared, what would you say to them?
Well, if we are seeing the numbers out of Italy, France, you know, Germany, the rebound effect, if we can use those as a guidepost, hopefully things will uptick real fast and downtick real fast.
Right. Right.
And I think that's the best way of looking at it. I don't know.
Right. Well, you know,
Really should have
sometimes
broken
it's really hard, man. It's gonna be hard to find, you know, meaning in all this. Well, Victor, we really appreciate your support of the program. We really appreciate you watching
Yep.
and subscribing. And thank you so much for sharing your experience and your story with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy your
And, you know,
pizza.
yeah, I am working on it. My dog's kind of eating. Well, she was eating, so I accidentally dropped some on the floor. She's a
We're
pretty good
familiar with
girl.
that. Jason opens any
Yep.
bag of munchies, and all three of our dogs are suddenly appear.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing, for people who are diabetics or medical conditions, they are starting to loosen up the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day supply idea where you can get insulin. Usually you can get insulin for up to 1 month. I think they're going to go to 90 days now.
That's
Okay,
great.
good.
Insurances.
It's
Now,
about time
I've
they did
seen-
that.
And then I also heard that some of the, well, it depends on what you want to do with this. I have a good friend who works 8 hours as a firefighter and works 3 hours delivering food to, you know, seniors, you know, Meals on Wheels kind of situation. So there's other ways of doing things too.
Yeah.
Just not hiding, you know. The other thing is that I've noticed, I have a friend who's a nurse, and she's, you know, we basically donated all our gear to them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just
Yeah, they're
one
really
of
hurting.
many. Yeah, but I live in Minnesota where 3M is based, and they're kicking out 3.5 million units. They've done that in the last 4 to 6 weeks now. I don't know what they're at yet,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but they're over the 2 million mark at least. And I got a buddy who works there, so I
That's
kind of
good. Hopefully they can keep up those numbers.
Well, that is.
Now, I have my
Go ahead, Victor.
sorry, hold on. My cousin lives up on the International Falls, so on the border, and he's seeing firsthand what's going on there. And he works for the DNR, so he is basically a pencil pusher, and they put him out in a truck, basically running miles. You know,
Yeah.
eyes and ears kind of deal.
Yeah.
So they're going to use everybody available body that can do something productive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's good to
so
hear.
from the top down to the middle people to, you know, the low end, you know, guys like us, our president has become a little more polished, thank God, when he's speaking.
Thank God's a good thing.
2
Yeah.
weeks ago, that kind of scared me. I was like, you know, is the 11th grade TV room pumping this out? And I'm like, well, maybe they are, maybe they're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know.
Yeah.
We've seen our fair share of craziness, and I don't think we're not going to see our fair share of craziness. But as long as we have Netflix and the internet, I think we'll be able to survive this one.
Hopefully you bought Netflix. All right, Victor, we got to wrap up here. I got some people waiting to get on. Thank you so much again, brother. We really
All right,
Thanks,
appreciate
Victor.
it.
See you later. Personally, we'll talk
Stay
about
safe
some
and
fun
take
stuff
care.
I
Thank
found
you.
out. All right, thanks, Lauren.
Have a
All
nice
right.
night.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, wow. That was a great call. All right, I'm going to call in Amy from Massachusetts. Who's,
All right, little throwback.
yeah, a friend of mine, one of my earliest friends. Met her when I was 5. Her and her brother, best friends forever. And I'm going to call her in. Hopefully she's watching. Hey, thank you, PJ. We really appreciate everything you're putting out there, and we'll check into
And I'm
that.
going to do the little plug here while he's calling in Amy. Like the video, please, people. We're seeing 3 likes right now. So if you could, while he's calling Amy in, go and hit that like button. That would help us out a lot. And we're waiting.
Hey, Amy, how you doing? All right, I got you on mute right now. I'm going to pull you in. All right, so we have Amy on the phone. Amy, tell us a little about where you're calling from and a little bit about what you do.
My name's Amy Baker. I'm calling from Quincy, Massachusetts, and I am a letter carrier with the United States Postal Service.
Great. So, Amy.
Hi, Amy. Nice to meet you, by the way. This
nice
is
to
Lauren.
meet you too. I can't wait to actually meet you in person.
I know. One of these trips up there, we'll have to catch you.
So for the audience out
Without
there,
question.
the Baker family was my second family growing up. They basically, adopted me and brought me in as one as their clan. It was,
I've heard so much about you all.
amazing family.
He is definitely the sixth Baker without
Yeah.
question.
Jason Baker.
So Amy, how are you holding up in all this right now?
It's pretty crazy. It's very calm. It's like eerie. I'll be out delivering mail and there's just nobody. You know what I mean? You'll see like a person walking their dog or like a small family walking around, but it's just eerily quiet. The supermarkets are pretty well stocked. You can't get like eggs, peanut butter, but like there's fresh produce, there's some meat.
Do you guys have milk
stocked,
there?
so
Because I would kill for a gallon of milk right now.
Yeah. I was actually at the food store this morning, and the milk was.
Hey, she
they were
works in
loading
the
up
post
milk.
office. She could mail you down some some milk.
I can express it. And have it there tomorrow, Jay. Let me know.
He might take you up on
anything
it.
for you.
He had this great idea of chocolate milk to make his mochas, and he's since realized that really wasn't as good.
I went to the store. Like the one thing I couldn't stock up on was milk, right? So I went in there, and the only thing left was organic chocolate milk. And I'm like, hey, I haven't had a chocolate milk since I was a kid. This would be great.
He came home being like,
I'm like, I'm gonna have some mochas. And by the end of the first day, I'm like, wow, this is not as good as I wanted it to be.
Yeah, right. Very disappointed. I'll take care of you, Jay. I'll take care of you.
We'll shoot you our address after.
So
Yeah,
Amy,
absolutely.
did the post office, have they given you any type of training or any gloves
Yeah,
or
we had a
anything
guest
like that?
whose wife is also in the postal service, and she was going to be going
No.
back to work.
No, really.
Yeah, we're working. We were told even if there's a shelter in place, we'll be working. But they were definitely caught off guard. We have no masks. We have no
You have
hand
gloves?
sanitizer. We have no. They have like a box of gloves. There are some gloves, but not enough for every carrier every day.
Yeah.
But there's no Clorox wipes, so you can't wipe down your truck. They took my truck out for like basic maintenance, and they brought a spare in, and I refused to get in it because I don't know who's been in it.
Yeah.
And I don't have any wipes to clean it down, so I'm using my own car, which is I have no problem with. But like, these are the kind of things I'm glad to be working. I actually love my job, and I'm thankful that I have it. But like, they need to do basic stuff to keep us safe,
Yeah, even
And
just the gloves would be
Just the
so
gloves. So
helpful.
Amy, let me tell you what I've been doing, right? So when the mail comes for us now, basically like whether it's a package from Amazon or it's whatever, or letters, it stays on our porch, right? I go out, I've got gloves, I got my mask, I open up everything I need, I take it, I clean it, I bring it in the house. And then I leave all the boxes and the letters in the boxes out there for a few days to air, and then I burn it all. That's basically what I'm doing right now. And for you, it doesn't have to be surgical grade gloves, right? Like you could wear leather gloves. Just you got to remember when you're using your leather gloves, you just got to consider them dirty. So when you wear them and you're handling all your gear, that's fine. Just know until you wipe those down with Clorox or with whatever, they're dirty, right? So you still can do it, even though they're not. It's a disgrace that they don't have this stuff, But
I completely agree.
I
agree.
And if I was you, like there's certain, like when you're outside in nature, it doesn't matter. The dilution of of the germs is fine. It's when you're in your car and you got all these boxes of fresh mail, and that's when I would be, when I'd want a mask or something like that. And more than likely, you're going to be fine. I mean, almost, there's an extremely high percentage, but as one of my closest lifelong friends, please be careful out there. So how's the rest of your family holding up?
So both.
Because I know you have so many people in nurses. Is your mom retired? Or is she still doing it?
She's retired, thank God. So they're hunkering down. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
My brother moved out to Kansas City, so he's a bartender, so he's not working. So he's like housebound, which is great. But the girls, that's nerve-wracking. You know what I mean? Every day they're in the ED, Tamara, I don't know if you saw on Instagram, is 3 months pregnant with her first child. So
Wow.
it's like very
And
scary
working
for
as a
them.
nurse right now. Wow.
And working as a nurse, yeah. So it's very stressful. It's I'll be glad when this is when the worst of this passes and we can get back to some normalcy. Will be
In which hospital
just a
system
huge relief.
is she working at?
I'm sorry.
Which hospital is she working?
They're at Brigham and Women's in Boston,
Okay.
who have been phenomenal. They're keeping them very up to date about everything that's going on.
That's good.
But they just don't have
The supplies.
what they need.
Yeah.
You know what I just heard that was
Yeah.
heartbreaking at Brigham and Women's on one of the COP boards that I'm on is that someone like 7 days before this broke big stole all the masks, a lot of masks, hand sanitizer,
Really?
and all that stuff out of a supply closet.
So like an employee.
Yeah, disgraceful, right? Like,
Wow.
Like,
people knew what was coming, and that infuriates me.
yeah. So
It's just wrong. People, it's crazy what this stuff will do to people.
yeah, well, that's the thing that has really broken my heart is I know so many good people out there, and like, and out of those good people, some of them have been exposed and they're not doing the right thing. So people who I really respected and thought well of, and it's like when how we respond to this situation is going to define who you are. Right?
Right.
I mean, it really is going to define either, hey, it's easy to be a good person on a good day.
Mm-hmm. And then it's inconvenient.
And when it's convenient. And then all of a sudden, when it's not convenient and no one's looking, that's who you really are. Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of that. And it's breaking my heart, unfortunately.
That's very disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is disheartening.
I just want you to know that some of our viewers say that you have the best accent. Just saying.
Oh, that's a solid Boston accent.
She sounds so much like Cindy.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Amy, if you had anything to say to anyone out there, and again, this isn't a stress, I just asking, is anything uplifting you'd want to say to somebody who needs to hear it, who's in a dark place right now? Is there anything you could say?
I would say stay strong. The communities are really banding together. Just even stuff as simple as like families taking a walk with sidewalk chalk and writing, messages to their neighbors. Like stuff like that is what I see on a daily basis. And it's little, you know what I mean? But it's nice to see everyone kind of banding together. And I mean, we'll obviously get through this, and I think there's worse to come before it gets better, but everyone just has to hang in there, and we'll get there,
Right.
We'll definitely get through it.
Yeah, and that's what our whole mission is. Our whole mission here is to help people get through this and to share stories and advice. So we were, and I saw this just the other day, and Brandy brought it up, that you can use 70% alcohol to wipe your car down. And if you go out and you get grain alcohol like Everclear, that reaches that. So you can take that, put it on a paper towel and wipe it down if you need to. But hey, Amy, it's so great to hear your voice. And,
great to talk to you, Jay. I love you, buddy.
I love you too.
And nice to talk to you.
You too, Amy. Thanks so much for joining us. And I can't wait to meet you in person.
Same. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, stay safe.
And Jay, call me if you need the milk, buddy.
All right, will do. Thank you. Talk to you later.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, the next person we want to bring in is Steve from Maine. Steve.
Not my dad, Steve. If my mom's watching and she's like, oh, wait, he's in bed. Different Steve.
No, so I'm calling Steve from Maine.
And who is Steve from Maine?
Steve is an old SEAL buddy of mine who's now a doctor. And we're not going to say where he is because he can't say where he's a doctor from. So, but I'm calling in Steve right now. Steve, you're listening. It's coming your way.
And we got to see Steve while we were up there a couple weeks ago, meet his lovely wife.
Yeah, we had dinner with him and his wife.
We went to try to find their house, and it was one of those, like...
Go up the hill, down the hill is a tree.
Down the hill.
There's a tree and a red barn on the side of the road.
So we definitely pulled into the wrong driveway and met some really nice old man in our Trident Shield mobile.
Hey, Steve, are you there?
Help you?
I am here, Jason.
Hey, how's it going? We're just talking about our adventure to find your house. So, hey, Steve, go ahead and tell everyone, where you're calling from, what you do, and how you're hanging in there.
Well, I'm a physician living in Maine, and we're hanging in here pretty well. I think both, as a family and as a state at the moment. Last I checked, and I really haven't checked for a few days, we had 70 cases or so in the state, and I think some states are doing better, others doing worse. So I think we're, like most people, waiting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Steve, do you feel like people in Maine are taking this serious enough yet?
It's tough to say. I mean, certainly, I happen to know a lot of people who work in the healthcare industry, and I think they are for, personal reasons. And some of my friends and acquaintances, I think, are taking it seriously. But I do think there are a number of people who, I think in their own mind, they may be taking it seriously, but they just don't quite understand the kind of attention to detail that is required to really stop this thing in its tracks. And I mean, it's hard. I mean, my daughter came over the other day, and we hadn't seen her in a while, and I'm not entirely sure how she was handling quarantine. And she was seeing my other son. It's a weird situation that she doesn't live with us. She came back from college.
The split living is really hard. We're trying to figure that out with Connor as well.
Yeah, exactly. So my daughter put on some ski goggles and then gave them back to my son. I mean, they were doing it as kind of a joke, like running around the yard with ski goggles.
Mm-hmm.
But little things like that are innocent enough, but they complicate what you're really trying to do in the community. So it's hard. And you don't want to really shock the kids and say, "Whoa, that's." So it's. Some people might hear this and say that's totally out of bounds and overboard, but these are the things that one has to think about if you're really trying hard to.
Well, we had actually a situation like that tonight, in that Jason was walking the dogs out in the yard, and the neighbor kids, they had some other kids over, and they all came to say hi to the dogs, and they were petting the dogs. And then it's like, so now our dogs potentially are dirty. Yeah. And, that's the thing. And then do the dogs come back in the house, and or are they on the couch? And do we have to clean the dogs tonight? So all those things that you don't even think about, like, holy smoke, someone just pet the dog. And the same thing as you're talking about with the kids, it's like trying to track this invisible enemy. It gets exhausting and it's overwhelming.
Yeah. And then,
it is. I mean,
go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
No, you.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things where there's two. It's a gross overgeneralization, but there are the kind of people that are like me, right? I used to study right up until the test came, because in my head, I thought, I could literally read something 30 seconds before I have to put this paper down that could be the difference between passing or failing in the test I'm about to take. And that's who I was. And then there are other people, and it wasn't that I was panicked. It wasn't that I was so prepared. I just said, okay, why give up the 30 seconds of time when it could help me? And then there are people who are much more laissez-faire about things, and they're kind of, I don't want to say they're fatalistic, but in a way they're kind of like, oh, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and so on. And we recognize those kinds of people, and they can be, there's pros and cons to each personality type, but in this particular case, you have to really, really pay attention, and you can't, any time when you're not doing that, you certainly risk defeating the purpose of this entire exercise in whatever small area of sphere of influence.
Yeah, one little drop in discipline and you're screwed.
Would you say that in the last couple of weeks, kind of how you've approached this whole pandemic has changed? I know when we were there just a couple of weeks ago, and you guys were trying to figure out whether you were going to go on vacation, and it's just like the flu. And kind of, where are you at now with where you were a couple of weeks ago?
I'm waiting for the words, Jay, you were right. I'm waiting for the words, Jay, you were right, to come out.
I just teed that one up.
I certainly think, Jay, that you were right. I mean, I don't remember. I think I was in terms of my vacation, I ended up not going. I think when you guys were here for dinner, it was, I'm going to kind of wait and see how it goes next week, and that's what I did, and that's when it became apparent that it would be unwise for me to go. So, we're definitely adhering to the recommendations of, the state CDC, and I think the United States CDC. I mean, basically, we're I mean, I can't quarantine myself because I have to work at the hospital, but I'm fairly meticulous about my clothing. When I come in, I wash my hands down more than I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my wife and my son, they pretty much hang out with each other. My mother-in-law's here, so she's here and she's staying here. I have other children, and they're kind of at a lake house where they're pretty isolated. So I've tried to encourage my family to take this seriously, and my heart goes out to people that they could be working for companies that are not really being flexible or not letting them stay at home. There could be a variety of reasons why a person who would otherwise want to do what they feel is their part, they're just not able to, and that's pretty unfortunate.
So, Steve, what is the biggest surprise to you about this? To me, the supply chain and some of the things were pretty staggering. What was your biggest surprise in all this, and being that you're in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I remember maybe it was a week or two ago, and again, as a physician, I think this just goes to show how much energy it takes to really be informed about your entire profession. But I remember feeling surprised when I learned that so many of our drugs were, I think it was our antibiotics specifically, were manufactured overseas. And again, I haven't
90-something%.
97%.
Yeah, I remember. Well, this was I can't remember exactly when that monsoon hit Puerto Rico, but I remember reading at the time that there was some incredible amount of IV bags that were made in Puerto Rico, and that created an issue, if I'm not mistaken. And this is kind of we need IV bags, no question about it. But this seems to be an even more egregious example of.
Yeah, that's one product, not every product. And that, of course, was 100% foreseeable, right? You've got one place making 80% of the world's IV bags in the Caribbean, which sees tornadoes all the time.
Are you seeing any impacts yet on the drugs that you're needing for kind of other purposes, or is that going to be a little bit further down the line?
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet. It is too early to tell. But I mean, I think I was talking with somebody earlier. And I was saying, if there's a silver lining, I think it might be that we learn as a nation that we can't outsource certain industries, certain medical specialties. I mean, you just can't. I mean, you can't do everything for the sake of efficiency at the expense of national security, and that's certainly a national security issue. When you have, I think, I'm like everybody else. I'm blazing through Facebook a mile a minute. I don't really process everything I read, but there was I read something about some threat that China had issued to us, and had something to do with withholding.
Yeah, their foreign minister threatened that. Yep.
Right. I mean, clearly that should be to every American a completely unacceptable situation. That just cannot happen. And so we have to somehow make our voices heard and compel our leaders not to allow these kinds of industries or materials to be outsourced.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means. I mean, we could go on and on about what that would mean in terms of the economics of it, but it's still, I think it's
a national security issue that needs to be rapidly addressed, Well, Steve.
I mean, we're not going to outsource our planes or our missiles or anything like that. So I don't see how this is.
It's no different. Yeah, it's no different. So, Steve, do you have anything uplifting to offer to anyone out there who might need to hear some positive words in this, out there, somebody in a dark place or feeling kind of hopeless?
Yeah, I mean, well, this might be kind of counterintuitive, but I think that humans, we can often respond to challenges in very inspiring ways, and it would be hard for me to reach out and speak directly to one individual who's having a myriad of problems that I can't necessarily relate to. I guess what I'm trying to say is we're human beings are resilient, and you can one could look at this on an individual and national level and just say that, we're being challenged in exactly the way we need to be challenged, and we're gonna rise to that challenge as individuals and as a country. I guess the best advice I could give anybody is to try to see themselves as a critical part of the eventual victory that we will have over this situation. And because honestly, that is true. I mean, every single person, we're all sort of in this together, and this has set us all back in some way. And it's rare that everybody can look in the mirror at night and say, I am, there's so much of our culture elevates the wrong thing and denigrates the right thing, but in this particular case, everybody can be victorious, and they can say, they can claim like a little part of this eventual victory. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's for some people who are feeling troubled about this, and maybe that can help.
Yeah, I think those are really good, strong words. Hey, Steve, thanks so much for taking the time to let us call you in and put some stuff. We had a lot of questions here that were directly to you, a few of them anyways, but your connection is kind of going in and out. So,
is it? I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, it just gets a little garbled. So I'd love to have you back as often as you want to be on.
And you're welcome. If you are on the YouTube show and you see the chat thread, you can go in. There's a few questions down towards the bottom if you'd like to take the time to type there, or we can just call you back as a guest some other time.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Jason, can I end with a quote from Epictetus?
Yes, of course you can.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Epictetus, as you know, is a Stoic philosopher. So here it goes. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. I think that's an apt expression for these trying times.
Yeah, awesome, brother. I knew you were going to pull a quote. He's the quote guy.
All right. Hey, I love you guys. Thanks for having
me. Thanks, Steve.
Say hi to the family.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, so I want to unpack something. I want to take some time, and then I'm going to call my friend Dave Butler in here. So what Steve said there is so true, right? So often in wartime.
And just real quick, so Scott, I know that he was on the list to call, so he's having to duck out for the night, but we will call you tomorrow.
Scott will get you tomorrow if you're ready to go. So I want to unpack something that Steve said that's really, really critical. So often in a war, what does someone back home who's not on the front lines, who's not directly connected to the war machine or the war effort, how do they feel a part of that? Well, they pay their taxes, and that's kind of this secondary effect. Mm-hmm. In this war, every single one of us is on the front line.
Yeah.
We're all combating this, and we're all making sacrifices, and we're all vital to doing this, because one person could infect somebody, becomes a super spreader who infects, whatever. So by taking ourselves out and by taking pride,
I think it's all about how you approach it. Yeah, you could either be, really down about the whole thing, about how much it sucks for you, or you could look at it, you could flip it and say, what an opportunity I have to help others.
Right. So, I just think if we look at it that way, right, if we look at this as an opportunity to participate in this war as frontline soldiers, as frontline, special operators, whatever it is that you want to picture yourself doing, but you have a direct role in how this role goes out.
And I would say we've very largely become selfish as a nation.
Yeah, totally.
So this is a good exercise in putting that aside for the betterment of the whole. So I think a lot of people are rising to that challenge too, which is really great to see.
All right, we're going to do two more calls. We're going to do Pat M right after we do David right here. So Pat, hang on. We're going to get you in there. No problems.
Dave Butler. So Dave is a local guy here. He's a friend of ours in the Charlottesville area. And I'm sure he will bring his perspective of what's going on. So I know that, a trend tonight has been certainly the talk about the medical supplies for nurses and everything like that. I don't know if you guys have been seeing, I've been seeing a lot recently about people making like sewing masks, and
Hey, Dave, hold on 1 sec. We're bringing you in.
we'll pick this up after.
Oh, good.
No, it's
All
okay.
right. Hey, Dave. So, Dave, tell everyone who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. Again, my name is Dave Butler. I live in the Charlottesville area, actually much closer to the downtown area of Charlottesville. And I am in IT for a major firm here in the Charlottesville area that, for lack of a better description, we test the elite financial professionals around the world, which
Right.
obviously this situation has impacted us directly.
Right, right. So, Dave, how are you holding up right now? I mean, you live in a small city. You know, the grocery store is full. You know, have you found everything you want? You know, how things are going? Do you got TP?
Well, yes, living alone, I actually have too much TP. But it's been an interesting thing. So I think you might have seen my Facebook post yesterday, but I'm a pretty extroverted person. So I think I've done a pretty good job as far as self-quarantining myself. I do get to work from home being in IT. I do find myself trying to take breaks a couple times a day to just at least get in my truck and go for a ride around and kind of see what's going on in the world. You know, today, for example, you know, I heard rumors about some possible steps being taken by the governor tomorrow here in Virginia. Didn't know if they were true or not. Having been in the Guard here years ago, I decided to drive by the Guard Armory to see if those quote-unquote rumors were true, and I did not necessarily find them to be true. So a lot of misinformation I found out there, but I did find myself also going to the grocery store last night because I did not feel like I was properly prepared. And I mean, I kind of saw some interesting stuff there. Obviously, some of
Do
the
you shop
storylines
at Wegmans, or where are you shopping?
I stopped at Food Line.
Food Line, okay.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we just being as close, and you know, Wegmans is close, but the population of people at Wegmans has been pretty thick.
Yeah.
But you know, there was no rice, there was no pastas. There was, besides the toilet paper and stuff, meat was almost gone. But there was other stuff. There was canned goods and such. But I think what was pretty powerful last night that I heard was I was kind of following this couple around, and you could tell that they were not of deep means or, you know, deep pockets. And I could hear the wife talking to the husband saying, you know, don't take more than we need. So I think the general consensus out there is to do the right thing, to self-quarantine, to avoid contact as much as possible, and again, to do the right thing.
Yeah, I wish more people would do that. We're, you know, unfortunately, we only hear about the outlying cases. Either they're super kind or they're, you know, or the bad that we're hearing in the media right now.
Very greedy.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, I watched literally a video of this, it looked like mother-daughter with a shopping cart with like literally probably 12 packages of toilet paper.
Well, I know a lot of stores are limiting.
Yeah, well, this
that you
must
can
have been
only buy
before
one or
that,
two,
and this
yeah.
one lady was just begging them for one. And of course they wouldn't.
Right.
Like they had 12.
Yeah.
12. They wouldn't give her
That's gonna
one.
last you a while.
And then ended up devolved into a big fight.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. And it's like, did she just crying?
Those
Just
are the selfish people we were talking
Yeah.
about.
So, you know,
Well,
go ahead, Dave.
I think we've also become, sorry about that, but I also think that we've become a bit, you know, hypersensitive to, again, stuff going on in the media. And I don't want to get off on a sidebar too much here, but, you know, just in talking to some of the people here in our community, because they hear these rumors, they feel this urge to go and kind of splurge or kind of protect themselves. Of course, you want to protect your family, but I'm telling you, like, without getting out of your car, just take a ride around. You can see, like, the world is still going on, and we will get through this.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, right? We all have to, you know, kind of pull together and solve some problems, you know, on how to do this, you know. And for everyone on here who might be a new listener, haven't heard before, if you haven't called your mortgage company and asked for a 3-month extension, do it. They'll do it on a phone call. No problem, no nothing. Wells Fargo did it for me. Bank of America did it for everyone else.
Obviously, we can't speak for every single mortgage holder, but so far, that's what we've heard.
I was on hold for 97 minutes, and then 5 minutes after they answered the phone, I don't have to make a mortgage payment till July. No hit on my credit, no nothing. So
I think, you know, to David's point, you know, that the world is still turning. We'll get through this. And even, I mean, so far, even in like New York and the states that have done this next level lockdown or shelter order, people are still allowed to go to the store. So if people were buying more on their regular schedule of buying, or maybe even just prepping for 2 weeks instead of the 1 week that they normally do, that would allow the supplies to still be there. More people could get it, and we wouldn't be experiencing these mass shortages because people are buying for months and months and months. Yep. Versus, so there's somewhere in the middle of that I think people need to kind of settle in at, is what's reasonable, but also not having to go out to the store like multiple times a week, which is exposing themselves multiple times a week.
So, David, you've already said something that was pretty uplifting. I don't know if you have anything else in the battery right now, but if there was anything that positive that you wanted to say to someone out there who need to hear it, you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think you obviously the world doesn't get to see my Facebook post, but you guys do. But I mean, that's how I was feeling yesterday. And for those that are not aware, again, being somebody that is kind of high strung, and outgoing, I think I like to do a lot of good things for people in life. But I also, at the beginning of the year, before this whole thing broke out, I started to make some changes. But obviously, your mind has time to really process through some things right now, especially with quarantine. So we strongly encourage people to kind of take that time, if it's 5 minutes every day, or 5 minutes in one day during this quarantine situation. I strongly suggest that you take that time, figure out how you're going to be the best person on the back end of this, and couple that with the idea of consider this a practice run and how we can better prepare ourselves going forward should this ever happen again.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, hey, brother, thank you so much for supporting the program and coming on today. And we really appreciate your friendship. Hang in there. If you need anything, you know where to find us.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the call.
Thanks,
no
Dave.
problem.
Have a good night.
So one of the things I wanted to kind of, rant on or go off on a little bit is how ill-prepared hospitals are right now. Mm-hmm. A very, a bright cop that I know in Boston put up a pretty brilliant post today. And he's like, the multi-billion-dollar hospitals here in Boston, Mass, have been expanding like a real estate developer, building parking garages and more buildings and all these things. And none of them thought to build a warehouse and actually invest in supplies. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's crazy.
So
the lack of preparedness that they
anticipated
have. Yeah, and I think the model, and I think this really exposed our model of running at, barely off of capacity all the time because we don't want to waste anything, right? Or anything. And it's like, there's so much price gouging already in the healthcare system. And that's why I really love the, what's being proposed, of transparency in your bills so you can see everything that you're paying for. Yeah. But this just totally just shows you how broken everything is. And I just really wish that, like right now, everyone's pointing the fingers at whose fault it is. But we all have a certain amount of,
I hope we can all, after this is over, take some national reflection.
Yeah.
And figure out kind of what things clearly were shown to be broken, what things were, what did we put in place because of this that's now going to be a good thing in the future that we will continue to use that we hadn't before. I'm sure there's going to be multiple things like that. And, how we can all contribute to things being different the next time around.
It's just time after time. It just seems that we forget the lessons of the past.
Yes.
And the greatest generation, the generation that went through the Great Depression and canning and storing food and all that stuff, to where you got people who go to the grocery store 4 times in a week and all these things. Well, maybe the grocery store might not be there next week.
Yeah.
And I think we have to really look at that and kind of look at ourselves and understand that, there are conveniences, but you always have to be prepared in case that goes away, whether it's power or an earthquake.
Well, we're so used to, as a society, everything just being right here, right at the fingertips,
right here.
When you need it.
Luckily, they're still delivering.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if they weren't still delivering. I think that a lot of people would be really, really screwed. So, if you guys, I see we have 17 people on and only 10 likes. So just to let you guys know, this is 100% we're doing now. All of our revenue all of our contracts have been put off. We're doing this, trying to bring life-saving stuff to you guys. And, YouTube's kind of the thing that we're counting on that. So by liking this video, you can really help us. And of course, by subscribing, we're actually going to have a Patreon account up tomorrow for people who want to support us and want to, get on a subscription, whatever. We're going to keep doing this, and we're building up perks for that, but just anybody who wants to help. So we're here. We're going to keep giving it everything we can away. I'm willing to do whatever consulting you guys need. I will help show you how to barricade your room, whatever it is you want to do. We're going to help you with it here, and we're going to answer the toughest questions, and I want to give this to you every day. So if you thought this was worth a darn, please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. Subscribes cost you nothing. Likes cost you nothing. So we're going to be here every, hey, Damien, good to see you, brother. Appreciate it. Really appreciate seeing you. So, hey, everyone here who like that, is there any, let's see if there's any comments, and then we'll, wrap it up. So David said, I'd like to see Steve reinforce the idea that this is still all right. So we can talk about that, right? So right now, this situation is constantly evolving.
Finish reading what Dave.
Yeah. So the idea that information around this is still dynamic. There are some good trends surfacing. We just need to sit tight. Absolutely. Right now, we're all just stalling for time for the vaccine, for promising drugs that are going to treat this, and an economy that was roaring at the best it's ever done in the history of the world that is still functional. Right. So it's all about PJ. Sorry, waiting on call. That's right. And I had one guy in Utah I owed a call to. So totally forgot about that.
You calling Pat?
Yeah, Pat is who I'm going to get to next. I promised him from Iowa.
Is that PJ or is that PJ?
Pat, let me make sure that I get the right one. Reach out to Pat. Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out, is PJ a
is
different
PJ
person?
Pat him? Because I owe a PJ a call from that Jason sent over here.
But anyways, I'll finish the mask news that I've been seeing a lot of is that someone was crocheting masks, which just doesn't make sense to me because crochet, the whole point of it is that there's holes in it, which just seems a little odd to be using that as. I understand the thought behind it, I guess. And then other people are sewing fabric masks. The one good idea, potentially would want to talk this through, was to use HEPA filters.
Hey, Pat, how you doing? Hey, all right, I'm going to bring you in now, all right?
Okay, bud.
All right, hey, Pat, how's it going, my friend? What do you got? First, tell us who you are.
Doing good.
Yeah, tell us who you are, where you're at, what you do, and what you got to say.
Well, my name's Pat Militich. I'm from Bettendorf, Iowa. That's where I'm calling from. I am. You and I have a common friend in Damian Warner.
Oh, okay. God bless you.
Yeah, yeah. He was my kid's swim coach. I've spent some time with some folks from your community.
Great.
Over the years, and been
Damian's a good one
with those guys and do some training. So, but yeah, Damian sent me a link to your show, and I'm happy that I found you guys.
Awesome.
Well,
nice
awesome,
to meet you,
man.
Pat.
We're only here to help, man. We're just all here to kind of pool our knowledge and see if we can figure some things out and help each other out. So, what you got?
Yeah, I love the positive attitude that you guys have, and the one thing that I just for me wanted to point out is I've hosted the podcast for about 4.5, 5 years now, and we have always researched domestic policy and geopolitical stuff, banking sector, a lot of financial issues, and have followed a lot of that. And so, for me, this is more concerning than just a virus.
Mm-hmm.
Shutting down the economy for a virus is something that is unprecedented.
Yeah.
And so it's slightly concerning because of what it's going to do to the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So PJ, I talked about this pretty extensively before, that maybe the cure was going to be worse than the disease. but it's just so hard to imagine, like that 12-year-old girl on that ventilator fighting for a 14-year-old girl fighting for her life. I mean, there was a part of me, and I'm ashamed of this part, and maybe it's I shouldn't be, but it was like maybe we should have just let this run its way, and then my business wouldn't be suffering right now, and so many others wouldn't be suffering, which is the consequences of this. But in the end, if I know that I'm sacrificing this because we're fighting for lives, I can go to bed at night on that. But what do you think, Pat, that the effects of this are going to be? Because it's all theoretical, right? I mean, right now we don't know what is going to happen once you turn off an economy with nothing broke. And go ahead.
Well, on the surface, nothing's broke. That's the thing that people have to remember.
Right.
Peter Schiff. I don't know how many people are familiar with Peter Schiff, but he was a guy on CNN with other economists being laughed at when he was calling the 2008 collapse. If you go to Twitter or Google and Google Peter Schiff with SCH is the start of his name, you can look up his tweets, and he's a friend of my show, and luckily we've been able to have him on because he's very brilliant. But his tweets are not comforting regarding the economy. I can tell you that. And when we talk about following Deutsche Bank for years, the past 5 years, Deutsche Bank stock has been circling the drain and heading downward. Wells Fargo as well, and Deutsche Bank CEO making statements like, the next time there's a downturn in the economy, the European Central Bank and Federal Reserve have no more answers, meaning no more QE. But yet we see, $2 to $4 trillion and upwards of $5 probably being injected into the economy, which does what to the American dollar, and handing $1,000 to $2,000 to $2,500 out to every family across America. That causes hyperinflation, and people are not looking at this as the bigger picture, and it's a little frightening to me ultimately that in my talks with some politicians who are friends of mine, U.S. congressmen, state senators, other folks that basically have been messaging me saying since Wednesday that this thing takes a very grave turn in 72 hours. I get a little nervous, and nobody alive has ever seen anything like this before. But I can tell you that I'm smart enough to understand the banking sector and the fact that we have a 1.5 quadrillion, not trillion, not billion, but quadrillion dollar derivatives bubble. That as soon as they suspend mortgage payments to banks, the banks start collapsing. That derivatives bubble, which was eventually going to burst anyway, causes major problems. And I don't know how you solve it besides a heroic president who kills the Federal Reserve and creates a gold-backed treasury note. Nobody knows. Nobody knows, and that's the virus is the last thing on my mind, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. Even though it sounds insensitive and it's costing people's lives, this is a much bigger picture here.
No, and I completely agree with you on that. And the thing of, like, if we caught it, we just assume we're going to get it, even though we're delaying it as long as we can. We feel like, everyone feels like the cure rate on it is pretty good, and it may suck for a bit if you get sick in the right place where they have enough resources to treat you and enough ventilators, right? But the economic part of this is, I don't have an MBA, I don't have an economics degree or anything like that, but even myself can look at this and say, wow, what are the consequences of this? And I just wonder, I'd love to have somebody out there who is smart enough to me to say, to speak on this, to say, hey, how do we do both, or how does this work? If there's a difference between inflation's going to happen or it's going to be gradual, and this is just a question for me to you. I don't have the answer. But my question would be, pulling the rug out from everybody and saying, hey, you don't have a job and you can't pay your bills, and that's 70% of the economy, right? You're all screwed. To a gradual or a semi-gradual or even maybe a rapid escalation of inflation, but people are still working. I don't know what's worse. Maybe you do, but that's, those are the things that I'm balancing in my head.
Well, when you go back statistically on pandemics and the lives that were lost and the numbers of people that were affected, an average of 500,000 people killed a year by the flu. This is in perspective right now, anyway. It's pretty minor. And
Yeah.
we just did a show earlier with James Corbett from the Corbett Report from Japan. He lives in Japan now, and life is perfectly normal in Japan. I mean, they are out doing what they want to do. There's no clampdowns. And you would think that a virus that comes from Asia would shut down everything in Asia, but it has not. It has not at all. And Japan is operating pretty much as normal. So people have to ask themselves why we're being told to shelter in place, which is the kinder, gentler version of a soft, I don't know what, a soft martial law. I don't know. But it's a little weird that places in Asia are just operating as normal while Europe is being shut down and we're being shut down and our economies are being collapsed basically deliberately.
Yeah, and see, I don't, I want to push back on the flu thing yet, right? The flu is an easily understandable thing that's been around for a bit, and we understand it, and we know who it victimizes. It's well studied, it's well documented. We know just about everything there is to know about the flu, right? This is an unknown entity, unless we want to go total conspiracy, where we're still learning how long it lasts on surfaces, things it hits, who it doesn't affect, who it does. We can't trust any of the data out of China. We're learning more about it every day.
Sure.
So, I don't think you have to minimize one to maximize the other, right? I think it's kind of getting killed with a bat or a gun or a knife doesn't really matter, right? You're still dead. So that is my only pushback on that. And if we all complied with this and it was done in 30 days, which is, would be great if we could do that. The problem is we won't. You got kids on spring break and going out and doing those things, so, I'm not smart enough to figure out the answers to this. There's a lot of, people in me who I don't trust. I don't trust government all that much. I mean, I do support President Trump in this. I don't think that he was like, hey, I'm about to get reelected and life's great, so let me absolutely tank the economy, put everything on hold and make it almost impossible, a lot harder for me to get reelected and make my life a lot harder. So, I don't know.
No, I'm not certainly not blaming Trump. But, how long, have they said in China? China supposedly suppressed this for up to 2 months.
Yeah.
Which is bad enough. So if we think about that, and when it, recently a pretty famous doctor tweeted and said, if you live in America, and this is not conspiracy, this is a famous doctor who's been on TV a lot, who tweeted this out, said if you've had a serious upper respiratory infection between November and February, newsflash, you've already had coronavirus. And I can tell you that myself and my entire broadcast crew, I do combat sports broadcasting and some other stuff, but I got deathly ill. I was in my basement for 2 weeks. My lungs sounded like 2 bowls of soup.
Right.
I had a severe flu or a severe temperature and was literally having convulsions for 3 days.
Wow.
Which I'd seen footage of people in China. So I was a little paranoid about mentioning that I had these symptoms and that it was that bad. And then all of a sudden, my entire broadcast crew, 6 of those guys went to the hospital after they landed back home after we did the show. And then when we did our broadcast, numerous people, I'm talking close to 100 people, started posting that they had the same situation arise for them. And so how long it had been going on in the United States before we were told about it is what concerns me also.
So, PJ, what date was that?
What date did I have it?
Yes, sir.
Right around mid-January.
Okay.
Was when I contracted it.
So the stuff that I've been tracking. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it lasted a full 2 weeks for me. My wife got it. She was pretty sick, and 2 of my children got it, and they fended it off pretty well.
Yeah. So, it sounds like obviously you had it. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I can't swab you or do any of that stuff, but it makes pretty much a lot of sense. And I know a lot of people who caught a pretty bad bug out there, and obviously you're probably in great shape. You're, given your history and who you are and what you do, one of the things I think that's going to hit the U.S. so hard is that this is going to tank obese people and people with diabetes and everything else, and it's just ravaging.
Yeah, pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, I mean, but and if you look at everybody with pre-existing conditions in America over the age of 40, that's 70% of the population, right? So
if you look at that,
unfortunately, yes. That is a bit of a wake-up call for a country, isn't it?
If you look at the New Jersey family, and I mean, all we can speak of is what we see on the surface, have no idea about other pre-existing conditions, but largely the family members did look overweight, and 4 of them have
morbidly
already died,
obese,
and
they're
there's
already all
another
dead.
5 infected at least, yeah. So, I mean, that one family's just been hit really hard.
So, that's why I think that, we're looking at, why I think our stats are going to be so bad here. And, and again, who knows where this goes? This is totally uncharted territory. And I think that you brought up a lot of good points, and I wish I had
it's certainly the other side of this. I mean, the human versus the economy, and how do you weigh those?
And how does the economy, when I asked a U.S. congressman, I'm not going to say who he is because he certainly doesn't want me to mention that. Very bright guy. He's an MIT scientist, and so is his wife. And people can look that up and probably figure it out. But extremely intelligent guy. And I said, Congressman, does the potential economic implosion from this shutdown cause more death than the virus ever could have? And he said, Pat, the number of suicides from this economic implosion will far outnumber the number of deaths that could have ever happened from this virus. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about viable people who were put out of work. The big 3 automakers have shut down, just to name a few things, not to mention millions of people in, almost every state besides, look, I'm from Iowa. There are other states like the Dakotas where they're not heavily populated, but we're talking about millions of people in every state that aren't working. These people have no money, they have no food in their refrigerator, and this is going to cause massive problems.
Yeah. So are people, you guys here in PJ, or do you need me to turn them up? I just want to,
You just got one comment.
One comment. So, and I totally get it, and I don't know if it's a knowable question. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're hypothesizing on top of hypothesizing on top of hypothesizing, and I think you just got all these smart people throwing darts at a board right now and then kind of moving back from it. It's all possible, and it's all terrible, right? It's all terrible. But the thing that I have to hope is that a lot of people are saying we're going to be through this in 3 months. I don't see that. I see this as 6 months. 6 months average situation, a year, hopefully a year worst case situation. 3 months, I just don't, I don't see that happening. Right.
You're saying that timeline for the virus.
I'm saying that timeline for everything's to start ramping up. Either that, or they're going to have to just just quit on it and just say, all right, whoever dies, and let it go. And I just don't see that happen. And I think,
you can see I think people see now the human side of Trump, if that's truly what it's about. Where he's obviously concerned with the well-being of his citizens. But like you said, there are people out there who believe in the hardcore people who believe in throwing imperfect babies off the cliff in Sparta, all the way up to preserving even the most elderly and weak. So there's a wide there's a wide range of philosophies there. And, Trump is choosing to shut down his economy, whether it's to reset the economy, whatever it's for, it's happening. But either way, he's trying to preserve life in a way. But, that's a moral question that you have to, imagine yourself as president asking yourself, do I shut down the entire economy, which impacts everyone's lives in a very negative way? Or do we let the weak and the folks with poor health potentially lose this battle? And I put yourself in those shoes in that seat in the Oval Office, and it's not an easy decision.
Yeah, being that it's unknowns stacked upon unknowns, I think going to bed at night with your head on the pillow that you fought for life, and maybe it's an outside shot. Maybe it's the Rocky Balboa story. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know.
Right.
I don't think anyone knows, right? Like, that's the thing that kills me on this is you can have people on the same panel, right, arguing with one another on when they're there to bring clarity, and there is no clarity because we're in freaking Alice in Wonderland right now.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That, for all the folks at hospitals out there, they need to be calling construction companies for masks.
Yeah, Trump ordered that already. Not ordered. He asked them all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Call construction companies and get those masks. And there's a lot of guys that are sawing up concrete and stuff like that wear them. They have stacks of them. So that's a good place to get them. I didn't know if you guys had mentioned that.
I'll tell you. Yeah, PJ. One of the things that has fired me up about this in a positive way was the private sector rallying. And I have images of like Ford Motor Company and all these other machine shops turning into building tanks and munitions and,
if their typical services are being required right now, they're using equipment for
that part to me, like, I don't think the government has the best minds in the world. I just don't believe it. I've worked for the government, so I can tell you they don't have the best minds in the world.
You were the best mind in the government. You were a tier one operator. You guys were the best.
No, but the things that really excited me is when we start pulling on the brilliance of the private sector and we do this Manhattan-like project, that maybe, just maybe, we're going to be okay because of that. And maybe I'm a dreamer, right? And that's why we have this podcast to try to get people prepped for if this goes bad, right? And continues to go bad and gets worse. And how do we help each other and what do we do? But until it, all we can do is prepare, pray for the best, pray for one another, work for one another, do whatever we got to do. And then, take it as it comes. But man, you brought you opened up some deep, deep questions, and I could talk to you for hours about it.
Well, I appreciate you even having me on, taking the time and calling me, and thanks to Damian Warner for, sending me the link to your show. I'm a subscriber now, so I'm excited to listen to more shows, my friend.
We're going to be here every day, and anything you can do to spread the word, we greatly appreciate it. And I can't wait to check out yours, particularly if you talk about the stuff, what we just talked about. So thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, people can find us at theconspiracyfarm.com, and we named it that to be controversial, but we talk about very down to earth. We talk, hey, look, just last night we had Sonny Pazikas on, who's a former Russian Spetsnaz operator who survived the collapse of the Russian, the Soviet Union. So we wanted his perspective on what's going on here. We had somebody you obviously probably know, Chris Peranto, on the night before that. Yeah. And so we're having we're having a lot of fun exploring things, but at the same time we're trying to open people's minds to what the news is not telling the American people. Yep. And we think that is pretty important. And also, before you guys have to sign off, I will say that a scientist that we had on, who is a very bright guy and also a doctor, who went on an Amazon adventure with a lot of guys. Some of those guys got malaria, and they were dying of malaria in the jungle. And he decided that he had no other choice. He started giving them water purification tablets, which is chlorine dioxide, I believe.
Yeah.
And it healed them of malaria. So the new drug, the pharmaceutical drug that they're talking about, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically a pharmaceutical derivative of chlorine dioxide and water purification pills. So that pill. Now I have
it's the
have
chloroquine. Yeah.
Chlorine dioxide is a pill that has cured cancer, cured MS, and a lot of other things. But they say that this also cures viruses and things like that. So,
yeah, they're stacking it.
So.
They're stacking it with azithromycin.
People can explore that on their own.
Yep.
Yeah, people can explore that. It's called MMS.
Okay.
And people can get into that. And I don't make any money off that. I'm just trying to give information for people to, try and get well, try and stay well, and that's my main goal.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much. Tomorrow I think we're gonna have Denver Riggleman on from Congress, so it's gonna be interesting to see what he has to say. I spoke to him on the phone today, and he was talking about some things. So we're really excited about that. I got to confirm it, whether it's going to be today, tomorrow, or whatever. But he's excited to come on this, and we really appreciate you being on, PJ. And can't wait to support your program, and thank you for supporting ours.
Have a great night. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, so thank you. And everybody should be working out hard at home, doing push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, squats, use their rowing machines, their treadmills, and make yourself hard to kill. Right?
That's right.
I know you're hard to kill.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. I get a full MMA gym in my garage, so I'm lucky right now. I just need to find the time to do it.
Good man.
All right, man.
Thanks for your service.
Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, everyone.
Bye,
Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about before we call it a night here?
Well, so I see Steve piping in on the chat.
Yeah, Steve's been
responding
answering
to some of what Pat was just saying in there about the suicide potential, jump in suicide rates, et cetera. Just definitely worth looking into. Steve was doing some digging on if there's any precedent kind of for that trend. So I think it's all interesting points that we have to consider. I mean, there's a
cost for
effect.
this.
There's unintended consequences of every decision that we make, and I'm sure that the administration is not making any of them lightly.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Steve. And I think, and PJ wasn't saying that Trump's doing this on purpose. Again, who knows? I think there's so many things out there, and we were just waiting for this one, and no one knows. Right, that's what we're all saying. No one knows.
If you don't do anything, and then it's really,
and now,
really bad,
even if it doesn't go as bad as we thought it was it because we took drastic measures?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like because there's so many extremes out there, and so many
violence or anything like that is if you prepare and then nothing happens.
Then it's a self-defeating prophecy, So it's just
always prepare.
Always prepare is the answer. So if we want to give everyone a second here to ask any more questions before we go. Again, we really count on your likes. So we've got 16 on, 11 likes. If you think we suck, don't like us. But if you think we're all right and you think you want to support this program, hit us with a like. We really appreciate it. Subscribe. And we're going to have a Patreon account up here tomorrow where people can donate to keep the Perry's lights on.
There's a lot of lights going on.
There's a lot of lights going on around here, and about
the electricity
15
bill
programs we use to get
this
done.
podcast is not cheap.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing anything. You're welcome, PJ. So, hey, I just want to say, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless our leaders, all right, who are trying to get us through this. And may God protect each and every one of you out there and all your families. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Trident Shield.
See you tomorrow.
Out.